5% for the European Union and 10% that baseline tariff for the UK. The president calling these kind reciprocal tariffs because he says that he's just going to charge half of whatever their tariffs and non-tariff barriers are to the U.S. to try to send this message. He says that the United States has been ripped off. He's also declaring a state of emergency here, a national emergency, and saying that he wants to reindustrialize the United States after decades of bad trade deals that have hollowed out, he says, the American factory sector. One senior White House official telling reporters this afternoon, this is not a negotiation. For all those people who are saying, is this just the president negotiating with other countries? This senior official saying it's not a negotiation, it's a national emergency. This will be money coming into American coffers.
All right, the president must sign an executive order. We assume it's the one covering everything we've talked about here. But let me ask you about these other countries now. Is the U.S. now bracing and expecting retaliation on this trade war?
Some of these countries, like Canada, have promised retaliation. We haven't really heard from Mexico. The EU has promised very specific retaliation. And some of that you can tie it right back to Republican districts. Some of these senators will really feel, the producers in their states will feel, think bourbon, think pork, think soybeans, think a lot of these things that American farmers really rely on, and manufacturers, also motorcycles, blue jeans, lots of different things. Those retaliations are expected to start in the middle of the month. That's what trade wars are, right? Someone puts on a tariff, someone fires back, and then all of a sudden prices are rising for everyone across the supply chain.
Kristen Welker is also watching this in the White House with us. Kristen, the president is promising this is going to bring jobs back, that factories will be humming again. But there is the political reality, and he only has so much time in office. Does the White House acknowledge there's a bit of a risk that if this payoff they talk about doesn't happen in short order, it may get a different look?
There's no doubt that there is risk associated with these sweeping tariffs, Lester. And look at what we have seen on Wall Street and Main Street so far with the initial tariffs that President Trump has announced. Volatility, jitters on Main Street, economists pointing to the history, which is that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs. Who campaigned on a promise to bring down prices. So far, that hasn't happened. And if prices go up, that's where the factor really comes in. Now, I had a chance to speak exclusively with President Trump over the weekend. I asked him about something Christine was just talking about. I said, can some of these countries negotiate with you? He said, only if people are willing to give us something of great value. What specifically does great value mean? What does that look like? That's one of the threads that I think is worth watching as we watch the fallout from these tariffs being imposed, Lester.
You say that, and that feels like the opening part of a discussion, a negotiation. Is that what you fully expect here, that this is going to end up in a negotiation and some carve-outs, if you will?
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw countries come to the White House in force to try to see if they can get some carve-outs, to see if there is something that they can negotiate. But what does President Trump mean by great value? The definition of that undoubtedly in the eye of the beholder. Those are where the thorny details could complicate any type of negotiation. And as Christine pointed out, from the White House perspective, they are trying to make the case and the message that these tariffs are permanent and immovable.
And
Again, we'll be watching to see how Wall Street responds to
that. Christine, these things are easy to get into. We're talking about trade wars. They are difficult to get out of.
They really are. And, when we had tariffs on the first Trump administration, it was a low inflation environment, and they were targeted tariffs. There were about a dozen categories. This is widespread across the board, big percentages. It will be disruptive to the global trading system. And in a matter of days, Customs and Border Protection, these customs agents and customs officials will have to start taking in this extra revenue. For companies who have ordered goods that are on a container in the ocean right now, it will cost more next week when it lands. That can be very disruptive to business, so we'll see how it plays out.
We saw that long list, I believe 6 pages the president held up of what these reciprocal tariffs will look like. That concludes this NBC News Special Report. We'll